Hi, and welcome back to Politodoxy. Today, I have got a treat for y'all. We got serial satirist Josh Seiter, who has been going viral all over the place. I mean, I think it's your latest video or two videos back where you, and it's at 200,000 likes or 100,000 likes. That one video where you ask this a teacher from I don't know what school district. You ask her some questions, and she thinks, "Oh, this is one of my people." Then suddenly you switch it up, and she gets very defensive. And it's so funny how it turns from not only friendly but also exposing the hypocrisy of ICE and how ICE operates, and her acting. Okay, we're gonna have to remove you from the property, and you're like, yeah, like an illegal alien would have to be removed from the United States. Anyway, so that went super viral all over the place. So without further ado, Josh Seiter, how are you doing today?
I'm good, buddy. I'm good. Just preparing my next post and going undercover. Hence the very creepy goatee I have going on today. I just had to go to a barber. I said, make me look as queer and weird as you can, and just envision that I'm gonna have nose ring and an earring and pink hair. And he's like, I got you, bro. So hence the creepo goatee.
Love to see it. And by the way, for those who don't know, you've been living under a rock. I mean, this guy is pretty famous for jump starting this, acting as if he is part of the left, and then doing this major switch. I'm not going to get into that because people, if you don't know, look it up because you should know because it was hilarious. People were asking questions. Who is the hell is this guy? Oh, anyway, that's in the past. It was one hell of a switch. For those who don't know, go look it up. It's not worth now discussing because it's been, rehashed all over the place. And I don't, you're probably tired of retelling the same kind of story. Anyway, so you go around and taking their logic to their own, you're taking their logic to the extreme, and you are showing a mirror to these people. My question here would be, do you ever feel in danger when you go into these kinds of positions where you're interacting with them?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, leftists by nature, they want revolution, right? David Cate and the Fearless Debate have done a very good job of showing how anyone that subscribes to leftist ideology definitionally wants a revolution. So definitionally, they're inherently violent because they want to bring about chaos. They want to bring about change through chaos. Anarchist means violence. And we saw that manifested with Charlie Kirk. So I'm always conscious and cognizant of the fact that these people are dangerous and kind of have a predilection towards violence. But, in my experience, firsthand, I've never really felt threatened. I go to these Palestine pro-Gaza, pro-Palestine, anti-Israel protests. I'm ethnically and culturally Jewish. So, I'm aware that I could be in some danger. I go to a lot of anti-ICE protests. But there's only been maybe one time where there was mobs of people. It was like 30 people literally running after me when I showed up as a illegal trans Mexican at an ICE protest. That was probably the only time where I thought, someone could attack me. But, if they do, they do. Most of these leftists are fat, they're overweight, they're out of shape, they're limp-wristed, they don't have good cardio, and so they're, I can handle myself. I like to work out, so I don't think I'll ever be in true danger. But someone could come up and shoot me at any time, and I've definitely gotten those threats online. I'd say most of the messages I get, 99% of it, is all support and all love, but I do get threatening messages from people saying they want to kill me. So,
yeah. By the way, it makes total sense because the last time I saw the No Kings protest, it was basically a bunch of geriatric old people telling the young people, "Oh, you don't want to live under a king." Which, by the way, this is actually real. You want to talk about satire, but this is not satire; it's actually real. In 2012, I think it was, when CNN or whatever. I'll send it to you if you really are interested. They did a story where they said that the left actually wants Obama to be a king. Like, literally, that was the headline. I will show it to you. I had to look it up first to see is this even real? Because this is so crazy, and it's actually real. They actually did that. So I'm like, okay, so Obama can be king, but not Trump. That's an interesting situation going on. But yeah, from all these people telling young people in Gen Z, oh, you don't get it, you don't need, you should. We don't want any kings here, whatever. I'm like, at this point, I feel like if a king would actually put you people in place, I mean, I would not really mind it, because these people have really effed up the country. But yeah, and I could also attest to the death threats that these people may give, especially from the pro-Palestinian crowd, especially the
Yeah.
Muslims, because they will say they will send you death threats of. They will just send you death threats. What I did was, and this just in case, I'm gonna give you like a good idea, just in case, if there are disproportionate amount of Muslims, and you can actually point them out. They will call you a pig. They will call you. They will attack your mother. They will attack. They will use certain things that are unique to Arabic language, and you can identify them once you know them. That you would quickly understand. Okay, this person is a Muslim based on the insult that they're using. Anyway, so I was able to tell. I said that if you're not going to stop with the death threats, you can insult me, but if you don't stop with the death threats, I'm gonna burn the Quran. And guess what? They stopped, because they only understand force. So this is just something. If you get death threats from them, just say, I will burn the Quran if you don't stop. You can insult me, that's fine, but you can't send me death threats. Anyway, long story short is here. You seem like a tough guy. I mean, you work out, of course, and you seem tall in the videos. So I would say that, yeah, these people, you got to keep an eye on them, because they are definitely a dangerous sort of people. Do you do you keep like an eye out for like anyone with weapons? Like, is it just, or is it just like,
I mean, I always have my head on a swivel. I'm more focused on getting the content, right? Because what I do, as you explained, is I kind of use reductio ad absurdum to kind of show how if you take these people's logic to its natural end, it always ends in absurdity. And that's how you kind of disprove every proposition that they have, is carrying it out to its natural end. And so I'm always hyper focused on exposing the hypocrisy and the contradictions within the leftist movement, that I'm not always like that focused on the danger, which I should be. I do have a former federal agent, that can provide armed security for me at really crazy events. If I go to the protests, now that it's winter, there's not really a lot of crazy protests out there. But I do have security that I can hire if I need to. But I'm more focused on kind of just exposing the left for their hypocrisy. But there always is an ever present danger, because don't underestimate what people will do when they can't win an argument with logic and facts. Now, we all saw it years ago when it came to when the trans stuff first came on the scene. They would get very flustered and very angry if you told them that men aren't women. And what they usually do is they'll resort to these ad hominem attacks, and then they'll resort to violence if that doesn't work. And that's what they obviously did to Charlie Kirk. So I think it's mostly born out of a frustration on their part that they can't win a debate, or they're not good polemicists, and that's usually when they resort to violence. So I get that I trigger them, but I am just so focused on kind of exposing their hypocrisy that I probably am not always as conscious as I should be about what they might do. But I also think these people are full of talk. Most of them are keyboard warriors. They're on X. They're, like Nick Fuentes. I consider him the woke right. And Nick Fuentes is constantly, using this kind of pugilistic language and kind of just pretending like he's this big bad guy. But we've all seen video clips of him when he gets confronted in public and he never does anything. So I actually saw one of his generals or whatever just got smacked in the face on X 5 days ago, the guy with the mustache, and he didn't do anything when he got smacked in the face, despite always acting like a big bad guy online. So I think most people are all talk. So.
I also saw the video, and although it was kind of funny because he does talk a lot of crap online, I'm like, listen, back it up. That's all I'm asking. If you're gonna do that, then you're gonna be able to. You gotta just have to back it up. And he didn't really back it up. And as far as I know, he's not really one of his generals or whatever.
Okay.
He acts independent, as far as I know. But really, it doesn't matter one way or the other. Here's the I want to know if those people who you encounter, do you ever encounter the rational people, or is it only because I know the left has some rational people, but is it only the people who go out and protest, or are they all the irrational types, or are there also rational people doing this?
There are rational. I had a conversation which I posted as a trans indigenous man where I was talking to an elderly guy in his 60s at an anti-ICE protest. He was, I would say, more rational. He wasn't screaming, he wasn't acting solely off of emotion, but when I confronted him and told him that all ICE was doing was enforcing the law, specifically the law that says that you can't break into our country undocumented, he started using this rhetoric about, well, come on, man, let's be kind. I gotta find my friend. I can't talk all day here with you. It's been a pleasure, but I need to go find my friend. And so I would say he was less emotional, but not very rational and logical. And I have yet to find anyone. On the right, we have many people, right? We had William F. Buckley Jr., we had Thomas Sowell, we had Charlie Kirk. There's a lot of people that use just syllogistic logic and rational debate to get their points across. I can't really think of anyone on the left that does that other than maybe Noam Chomsky. And Noam Chomsky is like 98 years old now, and he's never on the mainstream media anyways. But Noam Chomsky, I say, would be an exception to the rule of people working mostly off of their emotion and not reason. It's very rare that you find someone using logic. Another person I love on the right that always uses logic in the face of lots of emotion is Scott Jennings on CNN. He's always just stating facts, and then all the liberals around him melt down. So those are kind of my favorite people to watch, is the ones who just state facts, and then you see everyone melting down around him on the left.
But yeah, he does work for legacy media, but it's nice to have somebody who somewhat represents your voice in the legacy media. So yeah, I like that as well about him. And those, when you go out there and you have these kinds of so-called debates. One of your famous things. I don't know if you came up with this, but you have these signs. You go around with two signs, and it's one flipped over the other. Then suddenly, so it says one thing. Then suddenly, out of nowhere, you just turn it around, and then it says a completely different thing. Do they realize that you flipped the signs, or do they like continue walking? How long does it take for them to figure out that you flipped the signs and then say something that's completely counter to their narrative?
I do the sign flip, I think, in about 6 different posts, and I don't think in any of those posts they ever realized what was happening. And what's funny is someone came up to me to talk to me, interview me during my sign flip. It was at a protest with only 5 people, and when I got there, I said, "Oh man, there's only 5 people here. This is gonna suck." And the guy there interviewing that wanted to interview me was Bo Diddle from Turning Point, and he just happened to be there at this protest and saw me doing the sign flip. So those are my favorite because these people think I'm on their side, and then unbeknownst to them, I'm flipping the sign. So
Yeah, I like those videos as well, especially, the ones that you use the R word, retard. We're not allowed to use that one because it might upset.
yes, and disabled people are disabled. The R word is for people who aren't mentally disabled who act like idiots. And I wish more people understood that the R word is not being disrespectful to genuinely mentally handicapped people.
From The Office, you'll see what's his name? Michael is his name, whatever. He says that you don't call people who are Down syndrome or anything like that. You don't call them retarded. It's poor taste. That's not classy. And I happen to agree. Absolutely, you don't do that. That is horrible. And if you do that, we condemn those who do. But you call your friends retarded. You call politicians retarded. You call retarded people such as retarded by choice. That's the distinction here. When we say somebody's
Right.
retarded, we're saying that we're just shortening it to from retarded by choice to just he's retarded, and everybody knows this person's retarded by choice. That's the huge difference here. Nobody's going around and blaming people with Down syndrome. As a matter of fact, anyone who does that, we are pro-life here, right? We are pro-life. We condemn those. Unlike the liberals who put to death those who actually are Down syndrome, those who have mental complications, those who have even physical complications, the left will say, don't say retarded, but don't worry, we will abort you. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. There are priorities here, I guess. But yeah, sure. So we call people who allowed the Minnesota taxpayer to be defrauded by a bunch of Somalians, we call those governors, Tim Walz, retarded. That's the huge difference here, right? So
Yeah, I don't know
this is
anyone
by the way
that's
the thing.
like I don't know
Go ahead.
anyone that's like, oh, yes, I'm actually talking about mentally handicapped people. As you said, the whole point of it is we don't even call mentally handicapped people retarded. If we call someone who isn't mentally handicapped retarded, it means you're an idiot. And in fact, it means you're more mentally deficient than someone who's mentally handicapped. And I had someone leave a comment. He goes, I have a son that's mentally handicapped. I'd never refer to him as retarded. So why are you, this other person, telling Josh that the word retarded is offensive to handicapped people? You are implying, if you say that you think mentally handicapped people are retarded. And we don't think mentally handicapped people are retarded. We only think people like Tim Waltz are retarded. So if you
Yeah,
find the word retarded offensive and you think it offends mentally handicapped people, you are saying you think mentally handicapped people are retarded, and I don't subscribe to that belief.
yeah. I mean, look, this is by the way, this is what you can use. A lot of people they're attacking me because they're calling me. By the way, they're calling me a Nazi because thank you for the compliment. I guess I'm not gonna be bullied by these people. But here's the thing. Here's the thing. They're calling me Nazi, racist, and all these things. Why? Because I'm using dog whistles, and this is my comeback to them, and they don't really have a reply. I just say, if it is a dog whistle, just remember that the dog is is the only one that can actually hear the whistle. So what does that tell me about you? And just to mess with them. But yeah, if you're hearing the whistle, I don't know, you're the dog. But this goes into the content creation thing that I would like to know. So we have no problem using these words. We have all kinds of words that we use. We have no issue with it. But the issue here is, how do you went mega viral all over the place. The question here is, how do you consistently post while also maintaining a status quo where you're not being banned, you're not being shadow banned, you're not being, because my account is shadow banned like hell. But how do you maintain yourself? How do you maintain that kind of status quo where you're not being banned or shadow banned or suspended from TikTok, Instagram, and other places?
Well, I'm not on TikTok specifically because a lot of my stuff was getting flagged there, and I know so many other people that have had their accounts deleted or completely disabled or banned off of there, and they had millions of followers. Brandon Sorbo is a friend of mine. He had his TikTok banned. I think he had 2.5 million followers, and so I don't even try with TikTok. And Instagram, just they love me, and I think most of my stuff is not. Uh, on its face offensive. I think I do use logic a lot. But, sometimes I do use the R word. And I have had some posts that got flagged. I was identifying as non-conforming to ethnic, gender, and gay assignments, or NEGGA, or nigga. And those posts I made saying that everyone likes to hate on niggas and it's hard out here for niggas. Those posts did get flagged, and I eventually deleted them. But yeah, the algorithm gods like me on Instagram, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, Instagram has been way better. I mean, than TikTok would ever even dream to be. But yeah,
Yeah.
Instagram, it does a pretty good job at regulating itself. I've been, again, shadow banned, but it does better than. How about this? I'll tell you this much. I used to be on X or Twitter. Damn it, I used to be on Twitter, and I got suspended. I don't even know why. They didn't even give me a reason why. They just threw me off. Instagram has given me much more freedom of speech than X has ever given me or Elon Musk has ever given me. So fuck Elon Musk. But yeah, the it is a little bit tricky also, this entire thing of how you navigate this. So you're saying that you used to have a TikTok account?
I had a TikTok account, but only for like 4 months. And then I found that half of the posts I was taking the time to make there were getting flagged and deleted. And so I said, I'm not going to waste my time. I'm already pretty popular on Instagram. I have like 70,000 followers on X, but I think X is just filled with vitriol and hate, and it caters to the lowest common denominator. People, it's all shock value. Whoever can just shock the most is going to get the most engagement. I feel like Instagram actually rewards you for being artistic, being creative, being funny, and humor just doesn't do well on X. X is where people go because they're angry and they're hateful, and humor doesn't really have a home there. I've had some of my satirical content do pretty well when it gets reposted by large accounts, but for me, Instagram is the main, probably the only place where my content seems to resonate with a lot of people. So
Yeah. I mean, I'll tell you, it's the idea that you're getting paid for having an opinion is absolutely retarded. So I don't like that about it. Everybody's posting and ripping off each other's content,
yeah,
even though. So I'm like, can we? Like, there's too much of the same thing, and it's always rehashed. It's recycled BS.
yes,
So on Instagram, there's it does a way better job at filtering through that, as well as if you're getting harassed by people on X or Twitter, there's no really way of going about this except blocking every single account that is harassing you. But on Instagram, if somebody's harassing you, you just ban that account, and any subsequent account that is linked within that also gets banned. So or suspended. So why can't Twitter do the same thing? I have no idea. I don't know what Elon Musk is putting all his money into, but he really needs to, like, you bought it off. Good. Now, like, you created more problems. You fixed a few problems only for your buddies, but it's a garbage dumpster. Twitter.
It was really draconian under Jack Dorsey. I mean, obviously they were censoring and deplatforming anyone that, because they're fascists. The left are inherently fascist. They're deplatforming and censoring anyone who didn't tote the official narrative or say things they wanted them to say. We already know the Biden administration pressured Jack Dorsey and Twitter to censor anything that went against their narrative. So it was bad under them, but I would say definitely under Elon Musk, it's gotten better in terms of free speech, but worse in so many other ways. And it really is just a cesspool now. It is a cesspool of duplicative content that's just being spread, and it's hateful, and there's nothing artistic about it.
Yeah.
There's nothing fulfilling. I never get off X and go, oh, wow, I'm happy now. Like, that's never happened. So.
Yeah, I mean, unlike Instagram, I mean, you could come by a lot of interesting things because you actually are forced to be creative on Instagram,
right,
to one extent or another. Hell, even if you are offensive or even racist, anti-Semitic, or whatever, at least on Instagram, you are to one extent or another forced to be creative about it. And that's what I appreciate. If you're going to be racist, please make it funny. If you're going to be anti-Semitic, I'm the number one anti-Semite on Instagram. Okay, I've decided I am that. I'm Jewish, but I've decided I'm the. You know why? Because I make funny jokes, and it's okay to make jokes. I make jokes of myself, make jokes of other people. That's how I roll. But on Twitter, yeah, it's not only duplicate. It's not only that, but it's the freedom of speech thing. This is I'm going to give you something that this is beyond on the other side. Once I was of shadow banned, this is what I figured out very fast. It's that it's not freedom of speech. It's that the top accounts with 1 million followers or maybe 100,000 of followers, they get all the freedom of speech. All the smaller accounts are paying for a blue badge to pay for the bigger accounts their payout each month. So it's taking money from smaller accounts, giving it to bigger accounts. So those bigger accounts get paid for freedom of speech, which the smaller accounts don't get that freedom of speech because they're smaller and they are not prioritized over the bigger accounts. So that's how this entire setup, it's like a Ponzi scheme of epic proportions. This was what I figured out when I was shadow banned, but then I was kicked off completely, and here I am right now. And I've done pretty well on Instagram. So it is an insult, by the way, for you, for me. It is an insult that those people or those accounts get to repost the most lowest denominator post with nothing of value, adding any value to anything, and just ripping off each other's content and just posting stuff that doesn't really matter. Meanwhile, we're on the other side doing something that's actually, interesting, which brings me to what would you be? You want to say something?
No, I was just going to say, and everyone that's famous on X, and usually only X, because you're not going to be successful doing that trash on any other platform. They're only successful on X, and they're not famous in the real world. Like, their posts get allegedly hundreds of thousands or millions of views, but most of those are probably bots. And it's all artificial. Like, On Instagram, there are truly tens of millions and hundreds of millions of people that watch my videos, know who I am, are fans. They, buy my cameos. They come to my page every day. They DM me. There is none of that kind of interactive loyalty and love on X. So these people, they think they're famous, and it's like, bro, you're only known on this terrible platform. You're not actually like doing anything or making a difference. And if you are famous, you're famous for reposting a video someone else took. It's just so lame to me. So I'm very grateful that my popularity what started on Instagram and stays there to this day.
What would
So
what would be your advice for those who also want to start doing this? Like, how did you start out? I mean, obviously we know how you started out, but I mean, in regards to making your first post, did you put in too much thought? Did you overthink things? Let us know.
yeah, me and my friend were thinking, and at the time I was only getting 2 to 6 thousand views on videos I was posting. And he's like, "Bro, this was a couple years ago." He goes, "You need to rage bait." And I said, "What's rage bait?" So he like sent me the definition, and I was like, "Oh, so you're intentionally trying to piss people off?" He's like, "Yes." And I go, "What would piss people off the most?" He's like, "Well, what do you want to talk about?" I was like, "I want to talk about gender ideology because I'm sick of seeing these ads targeting my nieces and nephew who are 5 and 7 at the time. I'm sick of these people. It's a cult. They're a bunch of pedos." And I said, "I want to think of a way I can take on the trans movement." He's like, "Well, if you rage bait about that, you're just going to get canceled." And I go, "Well, what if I'm a Trojan horse?" And he's like, "What do you mean?" I said, "What if I say I'm trans? No one can disprove it because it's unfalsifiable and unverifiable. It's all about self identity. What if I say I'm trans and then I expose it for how stupid it is and how absurd it is as one of them, and no one can say anything to me? And if they do, they're the transphobic one, not me." And he's like, "Actually, that's genius." And I said, "All right, well, I'm going to have a beard because that's really going to rage bait people. And I'm going to say there's no difference between me and cis women." And so that's kind of how it started. My advice to answer the second part of your question would be just be original. Do something no one else is doing. There's so much oversaturation now. When I started this 2 years ago with my first video that got like 1 million views or 100,000 views, there wasn't so much saturation, right? Now, people were posting maybe once every 3 to 7 days. Now people are posting, some content creators, 8 times a day. It's insane. So everything's just, there's millions of videos, hundreds of millions of content creators. So my advice would be original, stand out, carve out a niche, exploit that niche ad nauseum, never stop, and be true to yourself. And people will respect something. If they see that what you're doing is unique, it's original, you're being authentic to yourself, and you're not trying to be like someone else, they're really going to become fans of you. And I think that's why I found so much success. And I have kind of these legions of fans that have adopted my language and this kind of, language I've invented. It's like J.R.R. Tolkien inventing a language for the hobbits, right? I've created all of the cis American, trans indigenous. It's just original. So I would just say be original. And you have a lot of that too. When I look at your page, I usually know this is Aaron's post before I look at the username. I can almost always go, this is Aaron's post, and I'll look, and 99% of the time I'm right because you're original. Now, how bad would it be if every time you post something, I have no idea who it's from unless I look at your username? That means you're not original and you're like everyone else. And I got to tell you, 99.9% of content creators are indistinguishable from each other. And so I do take pride, and I am very grateful that I kind of am this in my own lane, and I'm very original with what I do. So
Do you? Yeah, I mean, that's a very fair take, and also, yeah, I would say the originality as well as the quote unquote rage bait, because and I don't do rage bait. This is your word, but I don't do that. I do provocative things because I like to provoke people. I like to bring out something that makes people think, like, hold on a minute, and then I say, what do you? I don't agree with that, and I say, okay, so what do you disagree? What are you offended by? And why are you this way? And most of the time people can't answer that. For such, I'll give you a very quick analogy or a specific topic. I said that I think porn stars, the women particularly, most of them should be given the death penalty. And people were like, "What the hell? Why would you even say that?" I said, "Okay, very simple. Because these people are advertising it. These people should be given the death penalty." Sorry, I want to preface this. Given the death penalty, much like the producers, the website hosts, and all those people. Okay, so we're being fair here. So why would that be? It's very simple because pedophilia is wrong. These people, these women, are these bitch. They go out there on Instagram and they do these OnlyFans commercials to their page. They're coercing children, 9-year-olds, who see that and they're like, "What is this about?" Then they go to the link and then they get hooked on their site, meaning that they are coercing children who don't know better, who have no idea what's going on, onto their page. So I'm like, pedophilia is wrong. Pedophilia should be given the death penalty. Very simple. I think porn should be made illegal. But this is one reason. So most people didn't think that far. And I'm like, this is the logic. So I give them something provocative. They ask the question. Then I give the reason for it. And now they have to think it over. And they could disagree with me. I understand anyone disagrees with me. But that's basically how I operate. I give something provocative. You do something very similar to me. Give something provocative. People ask a question. Then you give a answer. You rationalize it. And you did that by
Yes.
with your latest video, the one with the woman the teacher. You did that exact same formula. You were
Well, and I did another one where I showed up as a trans indigenous person to a self defense class where trans people fight for free. And I said, "I'm here for the self defense class." And she's like, "Why?" And I'm like, "I'm trans. And you said trans people fight for free." She's like, "You're wearing an Indian outfit." And I'm like, "Trans indigenous people are indigenous." And it forces people to confront the question, if our biological sex, which actually is a binary, if we can somehow change it or identify as the opposite, how come we can't do the same when it comes to our race or our ethnicity, which actually is a spectrum and is more of a social construct and an amalgamation than our biological sex ever is? And that forces people to confront that question. Well, if I'm going to say that men can identify as women, I have to say a white guy can identify as black because our skin color is more amorphous, less delineated, and more fluid and more of a spectrum than our biological sex is. And it's just, I try to take their rhetoric, I try to take their talking points and use it against them, but I don't do rage bait now. That's how I started, but I do more of what you just described you do, where I just kind of make a statement or a premise that some people may be confused at or take umbrage at, and then I explain it for the rest of the video and force them, as you said, to confront these questions that they may have never thought hard about.
exactly.
So I think it's thought provoking. We're provocateurs.
Yeah, and again, for those who think, okay, that's offensive. Well, first of all, no. If you're Here's the thing. This is what I love to say about offense. It's that offense cannot be given; it can only be taken. Meaning, if you shout insults at a blind guy, sorry, at a deaf guy, and he's turned around, you can shout as many insults as you want. He's not going to be offended because he doesn't know what's happening. Meaning that you can by choice decide. I'm not going to be offended. You can also, by the way, in the opposite way, you could also be offended at the most minuscule, minute little thing that doesn't even matter. So offense can only be taken but cannot be given. I cannot offend you if you choose to not be offended. So I'm not offensive. I am provocative and a radical. But let's get into this one because I want to ask you about this current climate that's going on here. I mean, there's a reorganization of the right now, and this happened even before Charlie was assassinated, but it has been supercharged ever since Charlie
Right.
fell. And the reorganization it's not even a reorganization. It's more like a reorganization plus chaos plus organization plus chaos. It's basically where you have people such who are flocking towards Nick Fuentes. I totally understand that. I get it. I understand why it's happening. And there are a lot of people who are like, it's illegitimate. I'm like, no, you don't get this generation. If you think that way, you don't really get this generation why it's happening. You may not like it, but it's happening in a way. And then you have those who are going with Candace Owens. So everyone is picking a team here instead of building a real coalition here. Maybe good, maybe bad. That's what it is. That's what's happening. So what do you make of it? I would like to know what you make of this current climate.
Yeah, I think balkanization is never good because, as you said, it kind of flies in the face of building a coalition. And building a coalition is what we need to do if we want to defeat the greatest evil, which and I think most people agree, would be leftist ideology or woke ideology. I believe there are some tangential ancillary issues that should be addressed that Nick Fuentes does bring up about the strength of AIPAC and the Israel lobby and what's in our best interests, and should we always reflexively be kind of toting the pro-Israel narrative? Is that actually in America's best interest? Candace, I don't think, brings up any legitimate points. I think she's full-on tinfoil hat conspiracy theorist. But what Nick is doing is he's not just bringing up legitimate issues, he's kind of destroying our chances at winning any more elections. And I think he's kind of throwing the baby out with the bathwater, is what I would say. Like, cool, man, yeah, you bring up some good issues, but is it really worth turning our country over to deranged, crazy leftist lunatics? And that's what he's doing. And it's all for these little tangential issues. And he would say these aren't tangential issues. The Israel lobby and AIPAC is and I think I'm saying it, I think it's pronounced AIPAC, AIPAC. These are big issues. We need to be more worried about them than Islam and more worried about them than leftist ideology. And I think this is where the horseshoe theory comes into play, which is that people on the far right and the far left actually have more in common than they do with anyone in their respective parties. And I no longer view Nick as kind of part of our party. And there's a whole school of thought that says he never was a conservative. He never was on the right. His beliefs are more aligned with, people on the left, and he's an imposter. He's a Trojan horse. So I think they're doing more harm than good, Aaron, and I think they're throwing the baby out with the bathwater as they're trying to kind of, make some points that need to be made. But in the end, it's just going to destroy us, and it's just going to hand our country over to crazy leftists on a silver platter. So we can thank Nick Fuentes for that when it happens.
I'll say that it's an interesting thing that I've noticed happening here. Actually, it's with the Gaza issue that the people, a lot of people are saying, "Oh no, Nick Fuentes, the rise of Nick Fuentes is only because of the right," and I'm like, and I'm not going to give my opinion on what I think about Nick Fuentes right now, but for those who are on the left are like so surprised and so outraged, I'm like, the left has contributed to this rise as much as the right. And here's this is my reasoning. And Nick himself actually made a point about this on his stream a few months ago, 2 months ago, I think. He said that at the start of the year, he was talking a lot about the Gaza situation, and he called it a genocide and so on and so forth. And the left on Instagram were constantly liking and resharing the posts from accounts that are sympathetic to him, and they were making it very popular. And he admitted that these were people on the left, and he would look through the comments to see that all of these people are from the left, saying that they can't believe that they agree with this white supremacist Nazi, so on and so forth. So they made him just as popular as the right did. So maybe there is some kind of horseshoe theory going on around
right
here, but you bring up a good point that he definitely does. He brings up a lot of legitimate things. Meanwhile, with Candace, the Brigitte Macron thing.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, here's my thing. I'm like, maybe. I'm open to the maybe. I'm like,
maybe, but does it matter?
Yes.
Is it worth destroying our party over her having a dong? I don't think so.
I don't feel that that's really what's destroying the party. But yeah, it's like, how does this like bring down housing? That's my question. Like, how does this fix anything? Well, it's the occult and all that. I'm like, yeah, cool, but I feel like you should be making these episodes in French because this seems like a problem for the French people.
Right. It's not germane to us here in the United States.
This would have been, in other words, this would have been way more entertaining if she did like a Big Mike. That's Michelle Obama.
Yeah.
If she would have dedicated those episodes to Michelle Obama, I would have been like, okay, so this at least is American news, so we should talk about that. But
that's a good point.
Yeah, so
that's a great point. Yeah, I mean, how is it relevant? And I think a lot of things that Nick Fuentes says is irrelevant. And he's always like, him and a number of other people online, whether they're criticizing Jake Lang's recent marches or or criticizing someone else, they're always going, "Oh, Islam." I think of Jake Shields. "Oh, Islam's not a tenth of the threat that the Israel lobby is, or that APAC is, or what we're doing with Zionist Jews." And I'm just like, dude, that's a non sequitur. Okay, you can't just go, "Oh, I don't like something we do when it comes to our relationship with Israel. Therefore, unfettered migration from third world Muslim countries isn't a problem." Okay, that is a non sequitur in logic. And I see people on the woke right in those circles constantly making that logical fallacy where they go, "Oh, who cares about Muslim terrorist attacks? They're not half as bad as what Israel's doing." And it's like, dude, you're conflating two totally different issues. We can agree that, if Israel bombs a hospital, that it shouldn't have bombed if there weren't terrorists hiding behind sick kids' beds. That's a terrible thing, but they're constantly conflating it, and I'm so sick of those people and their inability to see the threat that radical Islam is because they're so obsessed with the Jews.
Yeah, I actually, since you bring up Jake Lang, I just interviewed him yesterday. I'll post this, by the way. This will be up later on. First, I'm going to post that one, hopefully this Sunday. This one will be posted later on. But I did talk to him, and yeah, this is actually, you bring up a very good point. This is a very important point, that we have people who are very critical of Israel, as I am extraordinarily critical. I'm an anti-Zionist, by the way, religiously, that is, and also a lot of it is, at this point, a lot of it is also politics, but I have never shied away from saying, hey, I don't think that we should allow about 76% of Muslims who think that it is a good thing that Muhammad married a child, and therefore they will replicate it in their life if given the chance. If it weren't for Western societal pressure, they would have done it here already. But I'm like, can we, this doesn't make any sense that we should then, throw this entire subject out, that we should not have these people in the United States. We should not have Muslims in the United States. We should not have these people. We should not have Somalis. Oh, by the way, you want to hear a crazy statistic? You want to hear one crazy statistic? I'm making a video about this, by the way, that Somalis, 76% of Somali women aged 19 to 45 have gone under genital mutilation, where they cut off the clitoris. And 76% of them believe it's a good thing, and they want to continue on.
Well, 80% want to live under Sharia law. And, the woke left is so deranged that they're now supporting toxic masculinity, whether it's men invading women's reserved spaces, or supporting Palestine, which wants to stone gay people and wants to behead gay people and queer people, or whether it's supporting this whole Somali culture that wants to engage in genital mutilation. It is really sad to see the things that the woke left is countenancing that they used to condemn. And it is so weird, and you bring up such a good point about that. Why are you supporting Palestine when Palestine literally wants to kill gay people? So they're very strange, and they're odd bedfellows. The woke left is odd bedfellows with Islam and with a lot of people within that religion, and it will never make sense to me other than they want votes, and they'll do and say anything to get these people to immigrate to our country, whether legally or illegally, because they want their votes. So
absolutely, it's a little bit more actually than just votes. It's cheap labor. For the Republicans, the cheap labor, and for the Democrats, it is the cheap votes. And they are absolutely subverting this country. They are replacing this population. Yes, they hate white people. I noticed this, that every single policy that the left takes on, or at least almost every policy, it's as long as it hurts white people, then they adopt it. It's good. And that goes to everything, almost everything. Such as, here's something very funny. You take the don't pollute, right? You should not pollute and the environment and all that. Well, they will say that Western societies need to adopt these carbon emissions and they need to stop with plastic straws, but they have nothing to say about China being much polluting way more, Africa polluting way more, and India, it's a garbage dumpster of the country, constantly pouring garbage and plastic waste into the ocean. You white people, you can have plastic straws. Meanwhile, India is laughing in your face, throwing all kinds of plastic garbage into the ocean. I'm like, if there is an issue, I promise you, it's with India. They're the ones who are polluting the ocean, not the white people. But but they can weaponize it against white people, carbon emissions, carbon credits, and the environment. Well, they'll say, okay, well, white people, you can't do this. They're here to take away your luxuries. A Pakistani kills a few people in Australia. Guess what? More gun control, dear white people. You can defend yourself. That's how it is. Every single issue, as long as it hurts white people, that's when they. Again, when I say every single issue, it's I'm being hyperbolic. But the point here is that I've noticed this. This goes for food stamps. This goes for there's an earthquake. Ever heard this? Earthquake or a tornado. Who's most affected? Black and brown and minorities are most affected. I'm like, what about white people? Aren't white people ever affected about anything? Aren't we supposed to like say anything positive about them? So this is what I've noticed about them. So yeah, and to what you said earlier about Jake Shields, he's legitimately a literal retard. Like
I think he has CTE. Yeah, it's sad. Yeah, he's a moron.
I mean it. There are certain people who are offensive or hate Jews or whatever, or who hate certain groups of people, whatever. But they're much more coherent, cohesive. Their arguments are much more well put together, and he's not one of them. He's not one of them who can make a consistent argument. He really can't make a consistent argument. I've listened to a few things and I'm like, yeah, I'm losing brain cells. I gotta stop.
I've been on Stu Peters' show a few times, and I always have a good time when I'm on Stu Peters' show. He makes me laugh. Look, I'm all about laughing. I'm all about humor. Stu Peters cracks me up. I'm Jewish. I don't know if Stu Peters or his producers know that I'm Jewish, but Stu Peters is a articulate, intelligent guy. I think Nick Fuentes is an intelligent, obviously charismatic person. Jake Shields is a troglodyte, and he's a regressive one. And I think he fancies himself to be in the fashion of a Stu Peters or Nick Fuentes, but everyone's just laughing at him. He's kind of he's kind of like Brendan Schaub, right? I mean, Brendan Schaub, everyone makes fun of him. He's kind of the Brendan Schaub of X, and it's pathetic and sad. But yeah, it's very popular to hate Jews now. Again, as you said, you can choose to be offended. I'm Jewish. Ricky Gervais said, nowhere is it written that you will go through life and not get offended. And people think it's in the Bill of Rights that they can't be offended. You offended me. Well, as Matt Gaetz said, be offended then. Don't care, and that's always going to be my response. If someone's offended by something, be offended. So, Jake Shields, I find him, offensive, but more stupid. So
I'll tell you, and also in the mortal words of Candace Owens, life's tough, get a helmet. But sometimes, she has some good stuff to say sometimes, but I don't find her very a lot of the things very compelling, especially the Charlie Kirk situation. Like, what are you pointing to, man? I'm waiting for a claim. Can you make a claim that Charlie Kirk's murder was at the hands of Turning Point or at the hands of Israel? What is the claim? I'm waiting for a freaking claim.
Nobody knows, bro. She's got to draw it out for 20 more episodes, so you're not going to get to the meat of the issue for about 15 more episodes. She can't show her hand or else you'll stop subscribing.
And by the way, and Nick Fuentes is the best at what he does, and he is very intelligent, articulate, well-spoken, and he touches on a lot of subject and a lot of issues, and he's not this low-tier thing. He is way more sophisticated than I feel like a lot of people on the right want to give him credit for. But he deserves it. You know what the funniest thing, by the way, is? The funniest thing that he didn't even make Anti-Semite of the Year. I'm like, let bro have it. Like Rachel,
who made it?
I don't know who made it, but Rachel from, I don't know, this kids show. I don't even remember.
Yes, she made it.
She's on the list, and I'm like, why is Nick Fuentes not on the list? Like, bro,
he's been blackballed from the Jew hating awards.
That's horrible. No, that's even worse. I feel like he actually felt that. I mean, if you try to hurt his feelings, I think that actually kind of did hurt his feelings. Like, let him have
He's offended. He's offended by that, yeah.
But yeah, anyway, so That's what's going on here. This new there's a new realignment where the young people are now going to the alternative sites, alternative voices on the internet. And I'm not really opposing it. I'm not really against it. I'm like, you know what? We are so far left that we're gonna have to have a huge antithesis to all of that, and people who are willing to, be unapologetic about their Christianity. You're a Christian, right?
Well, I grew up in a family where I had born again Christian evangelical parents. Me and my two brothers were homeschooled our entire life. My brothers went to 3 years of elementary school. I was homeschooled my entire life, with the exception of my sophomore year, when I convinced my parents to let me go to public school in Urbana. Where I grew up. So I grew up in what I would describe as a homeschooled Christian cult. And because of that, I grew away from religion when I went off to college. I actually became very liberal, very woke. I majored in sociology and minored in political science. I then went on to law school on the criminal defense side and became even more woke. And then it was in my 30s, especially with the lockdowns and especially with the George Floyd BLM situation before that, that is what made me say, I am cutting all ties with these people. They are completely divorced from reality. And I find that I have a lot more in common with people on the right. Not everything, but a lot more. I'm a libertarian. And my faith is, I'm not a practicing Christian. Like I said, I'm ethnically and culturally Jewish. My maternal grandmother was born in Jerusalem. But if I were to align with any religion that is congruent with my philosophical viewpoints on how to live life, it would be Christianity. It certainly would not be a rapist pedo like Muhammad's religion.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, that's fair enough. But yeah, so you're Christian, and I want more people. This is the thing, that I need to see more people who are now becoming much more right wing. They're becoming more extreme or radical, or all these other words that they really love to use, because in order to delegitimize this
Right.
differences from white people, they want to delegitimize everyone, all Gen Z. So
Yep.
I'm not against it. I'm very much for it, because at this point, the left is so far like this. You have drag shows, you have drag queens going all over the place, you have pornography everywhere you look on Instagram, and it's constantly, the algorithm is trying to feed it to you.
Yep.
And if you just like, by mistake, if you like one of these posts, then you will be fed it.
Yes, that's all you get.
Yes, I mean, I've seen it multiple times where I would just check the comment section. I want to check the comment section of sometimes something comes across, and I'm like, what are the people saying about this basically softcore pornography? So I click the comment section and I see what they have to say. Then I go to the next video, and because I clicked on the comment section, I didn't like the video, I didn't share it, I didn't post it anyway. I just the comment section. From that, the algorithm picks up this guy's interest in these kinds of things. So then it feeds more to me. So that's when I stopped. I completely stopped, and I'm not getting those things anymore. But they're always trying to sneak one in there. But long story short is, it's everywhere, and young men are sick and tired of it. Young men don't want pornography. Big update. We don't want it. We don't want pornography. We don't want our women to be naked, scantily clad, advertising their junk all over the place. We don't want it. And this is being forced by algorithms, by people on top who want you to be addicted by these things. So I'm not really that much against this extreme right wing who is going to hopefully one day take power and then say, all of these things, we're not listening to you guys anymore. All of these things end right now. And you can scream and cry, you can get violent about it. Guess what? We're going to get way more violent with legal government action, such as arresting people who need to be arrested, thrown into prison, death penalty through legal means, and anyone who does something, like assassination, gets the chair and make it public, or hanging or firing squad, something like that. And I'm all for it. I'm all for that kind of a response, because the way we live right now is not the way people were living in the 80s, and definitely not how people were living in the 50s. So if we could just go back to that, I would love that. What do you think about this?
Well, I think someone's always shaping the narrative. So the left loves to cry wolf that Trump just put some plaques describing Obama's presidency and Biden's presidency. And they're going, this is editorializing. I can't believe Trump is, taking this perspective of their presidencies where he's so hypercritical and negative under their presidential portraits in the White House. And my response is, you guys have been shaping the narrative on the left for the last 15 to 20 years. You guys controlled Twitter under Jack Dorsey. You had Mark Zuckerberg and Meta in your back pocket. You had them censoring anything you didn't like. You pressured Google under Biden to censor anyone on YouTube that said something you didn't like. You guys have been shaping the narrative for almost 2 decades. You have Wikipedia, which is constantly using woke, biased, prejudicial language to describe people on the right in their bios on Wikipedia. We do it one time where Trump is controlling what the presidential plaques say, and you people have a complete mental breakdown and a meltdown. Well, guess what? Someone's always controlling the narrative, and it's not always going to be the left. And when the right controls the narrative and the right decides what's truth and what's reality, you guys need to be prepared for it. And we're not nearly as draconian with it as the left is. The left is extremely draconian and fascist in the way that they censor anyone that has an opinion that they don't agree with. And it's just funny that Trump kind of editorializes a little in his plaque descriptions under Biden and Obama, and they absolutely lose it. So they don't like a taste of their own medicine, but as you said, Aaron, they're gonna get it very soon when the far right, when the country shifts even more right and people that are far right candidates start getting in power. They better be prepared, because they've been shaping the narrative of what little kids' books say and what little kids' books include. And one day they're not gonna have that power, and we're gonna decide that the left's sexual fetishes and the left's kinks aren't gonna be in children's books in elementary schools, and they're gonna start crying about that. Well, again, you guys got to shape the narrative and decide what's allowed and what can be said in this kind of Overton window for 20 years. You better be prepared for when we get in power. And it's funny to watch them melting down now that Trump's doing exactly that. And we're shaping the narrative now, and they don't like it very much.
What are your three best? Who are your 3 favorite people to follow on Instagram? And you don't have to include me. Just be honest. Be honest. You don't have to include me.
I mean,
wait.
I still loved
Favorite conservatives. Favorite conservatives. That is.
I still love Thomas Sowell. Thomas Sowell is my favorite person, even though he's not alive, to follow on X, and my favorite person to follow on Instagram. I don't think there will ever be anyone as prescient, as intelligent, as cogent, and as insightful as Thomas Sowell was. In his books, Black Rednecks and White Liberals is still one of my favorite, most life-changing books of all time. Besides him, Cassidy Campbell is someone that I enjoyed watching years ago, and I still watch his content. It's more sports-related now, but Cassidy Campbell invented kind of the Harvard white kid that would yell at people and call them peasants, and that I always thought that was kind of an ingenious character. I think your page is great. I thought the one of the card where someone says, "Can you give me a card because my coworker's husband got deported," and it was a Chihuahua saying adios or something. That got like 200,000 shares in 2 days. I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah, that's not mine. Memes. Listen, when it comes to memes, I will repost any memes, and nobody owns memes, and that goes to me for me as well. I make memes myself, but I don't like put.
But it performed well when you posted it. That was your post that got those 100 and some thousand shares.
But it's not mine. I'm not claiming credit. I'm only claiming credit for my own things. But when it comes to memes, memes are fair use, and you don't get to claim ownership over a meme. A video is your work. A meme is for everyone. I'm a communist when it comes to memes, but and that goes for me as well. I've also posted memes, and anyone is free to use them, and you don't have to give me credit. Memes are memes. It's for everyone. But so your 3 favorites is Thomas Sowell, Cassidy Campbell, and who else?
I'm trying to think. I love Tristan Tate. Gave me one of my very first interviews ever when I came onto the political scene, and so I have the utmost respect for Tristan Tate. I think he's very articulate. I agree with 99% of the things that he posts. And I do enjoy following him on X. He's not on Instagram. But at the moment, I can't think of an Instagram page that, oh my God, I just have to. I love the cringe pages. Like, you have to watch this cringe video, and it's just people being super cringy or embarrassing or getting humiliated. I kind of like those kind of pages.
So let's finish this up here. We're wrapping up. Let me ask you about for those, first of all, for those who want to follow you, where can they follow you? Anything you're working on? Any new videos? Anything you want that you want people to keep an eye out for? Any projects? Anything? Let us all know. Let us know right now.
Yeah, so you can follow me on Instagram at Josh_Seiter_official or on X at Josh_Seiter. And those are my two main platforms. What I have in the works now is I usually post once to twice a week. They're usually either skits or interactions I have at protests or with strangers on the street. And I would encourage people to follow me on Instagram. That's where most of my stuff's posted. And I'll be going out trying to interview people in a couple days. I got this horrible facial hair going, and I have some pink hair dye here, some blue hair dye, fake septum piercing, and a couple of other things I'll be wearing. So it'll be a good one.
Now I'm afraid. I'm afraid right now. What monstrosity awaits me on my?
I'm going to an LGBTQ church. It's a gay church. So I'll be outside of that church with the rainbow doors.
No such thing as a gay church in my experience.
Right.
I've never seen something like that. And by the way, that goes to female rabbis and female pastors. No such thing. But I want you also to stick around till after the end here because I wanted to load up on your side. Okay. So for those who want to follow me, you can follow me on Instagram and Facebook at Politidoxy and Politidoxy Uncensored. You can follow me also on Instagram and Facebook at Aaron Friedman. You could also reach me. You could reach out to me there, as well as you can reach out to me at politidoxy@gmail.com. So that's about it, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed Josh Seiter. So remember, my fellow radicals, stay political.